Good evening. My name is Sam Merchandani and I'm proposing Robert Double for senior man. Having been friends with Rob through school and living only 2 minutes from him at home, I have got to know things about Rob others may not know. He failed his first driving test on the reverse round the corner manoeuvre. He applied to Oxbridge twice and failed, that's why he's here. And most importantly, he has really attractive sisters. However, he is also a very talented man himself. All through his time at Hatfield, Rob has got involved with everything. He was a senior open day rep, a freshers rep, a pre-open day ambassador, chair of last year's beer festival, which he tells me sold out for the first time ever, and now the chair of this year's Lion Winter Ball, which has sold over 720 tickets. He also managed to secure sponsorship for the ball from an external company for the very first time ever, and has somehow managed to persuade the 20 Grammy award-winning artist Beyonce to perform, so I don't know how you've done that. Rob is also a valued member of HCFC's Galacticos, or so he says, but he does also claim to be the 10-year-old Michael Owen, so he lies about a lot. And the president of Hatfield Tennis Club, which has grown massively under his leadership. He even applied to work at the Hatfield bar before James Hayes decided he probably wasn't right for that job when he found Rob passed out at the sessions table an hour after submitting his manifesto. However, Rob is right for this role of senior man. He is organised, caring, fun, committed, approachable, a good public speaker, a leader, and most importantly, passionate about the position. I know he's determined to make a difference, take everyone's view on board, and make the exec and Hatfield College even better. Rob is also responsible, as shown by him being first aid trained, which apparently I'm not obliged to say. I believe Rob is the perfect candidate to be Hatfield's next senior man. He would do an excellent job. Not only is he a brilliant person, but also a great friend. I strongly urge you to vote Robert Double to be your next senior man. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam. If I can now invite Jamie McCulley up, who's proposing Matthew Wilson.
Hey everyone, I'm Jamie, and I'm here this evening to propose Sam Wilson as your future senior man. When Sam asked me if I were a proposer, I felt overjoyed, honoured, and really quite nervous. And I felt nervous because I have such faith in Sam that I wanted this proposal to do her the justice that she truly deserves. I could stand here and regale her achievements and commitments. For instance, her successful work at an international equestrian training yard, her ability to timekeep balancing a 20-hour-a-week job with her studies in her first year, her unwavering commitment to Hatfield College Boat Club as a rower, cox and coach, and her role as an open day rep, and be done with it. But that really wouldn't do Sam justice. So I got to thinking, what do I want from a senior man? I want somebody who is approachable, committed and loyal to their JCR. I want somebody who will make promises and act upon them. I want somebody who would make a respectable figurehead that will truly have our JCR's interests at heart. I want somebody that I can be proud of. I can stand here and tell you that Sam Wilson has all of these qualities in abundance and that I could not be more proud of her. You'll see tonight that Sam speaks with such sincerity and passion as to what she would do with this role that quite frankly it would be madness not to give her your vote. I stand here as a Hatfielder and a member of your JCR, but primarily as a friend that is bursting with pride and excitement as to what she could do with this role. Hatfield, I urge you to vote for Sam Wilson as your next senior man. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Jamie. I'll now hand over to Maria for some questions. We'll start with Rob answering the first one.
Being Hatfield senior man is an incredible experience. What do you think would be the best part, and what challenges do you anticipate?
Probably the best thing I find a lot about Hatfield and indeed like the college system and the college community is the fact of like a community. You are always in contact with people and you always have someone when you walk into the dining hall to talk to, and you're always constantly around people, and it is a real sense of you're part of sort of a wider sort of family effectively. And so I think being a central part to that and being able to shape that I think would be the most amazing thing for me. Just being able to walk around and talk to people and listen to them, listen to where they think Hatfield should go, whether it's been going badly at the moment, whether it's what's the future they see for it. So I think that's probably the most exciting thing for me, just simply being part of an essential part of the college community where I can sort of immerse myself even further in the experience.
Okay, I think being senior man for Hatfield College would be absolutely fantastic because I could listen to your views and bring the JCR in the direction that would be fantastic for all of us. I mean, in my manifesto, as I have said, there are some issues in terms of us being classed as a racist college, a sexist college, and I really do want to change that. In my speech toward the end, I will comment on how I will put the changes forward, but it would be a fantastic opportunity to show the other colleges that Hatfield is fantastic, and you know, we all love it here, it's amazing. The thing I'm most frightened about probably is the formals, and I will really have to moderate how much I drink, being the total lightweight that I am. Yes. So, yeah.
Hatfield JCR is a DSO. What does this mean? How does the framework impact what we do as a JCR? And how important do you think it is that the framework is adhered to? That's to Sam first.
Okay, so the Durham Student Organisation is what encompasses all of the recognised and maintained colleges, and Hatfield falls within that. So we have to adhere to their rules, which include their staffing arrangements in terms of they come out of our budget, especially catering staff. Also in terms of health and safety, and also in terms of representing us as a Hatfield College, as a college in general, to make sure that everything's fine, really. I think this framework, sorry Marie, could you repeat the second question?
Yeah, Hatfield JCR is a DSO. What does this mean? How does the framework impact what we do as a JCR, and how important do you think it is that the framework is adhered to?
Okay, so the framework is there. It's a fantastic framework. I mean, the college has fallen underneath it. It is a great thing that Hatfield does too. However, if there were issues in terms of it no longer fitted our requirements, I would maybe try and change that as senior man, which would be very important. There may be the option of actually coming out of the DSO if it actually became to the point where we no longer found it up to our standards. So I know it takes a 2-year period to do that, but it could be questionable.
Yeah, basically what Sam said, Durham Student Organisation, so Hatfield is part of it, and it basically means that we share a constitution. And whilst we have the ability to write our own standing orders, we have to adhere to certain policies which like the Central University or the DSO system kind of creates. So a lot of that is to do with the role of the senior man or the JCR president, but also a lot of it, and the emphasis is a lot of it, is on the financial side. So like the method of payments is a key one, the way things are, money is handled, the contingencies for instance, if a college goes bankrupt, they'll be put in something called special measures and stuff like this. I think it's quite a good system. I think it has its bonuses. However, it does have its limitations. So, because I put on my manifesto, an online system, I think is the future and what we should be pushing for. It is something which, through being in a DSO, is limiting us. So, it is again needs amending.
River safety is a key issue in both the city and the university. What do you see your role as senior man as in working on this issue?
So I think we have to tread a really careful line as the exec, because we are students and we're just like every other person in Hatfield. We have no, I think there's a very, particularly with regard to telling people about the effects of alcohol, it can be awfully patronising and it can make students very reactive to it. And I think you can see that in perhaps some of the reactions of students to the police statements and the police enforcements as what they're going post the case in Europe. So I think the senior man needs to draw a careful line of communicating with the police and being the buffer between the police and the council and everyone who want and are pushing an agenda, and making sure that the students' voices are being heard, but being heard in a kind of a rational and very clear forum, so that we don't end up with very undiplomatic sort of situations. Because I think that's a really key issue, and it's quite abrasive at the moment. And so for it, like measures and stuff which can be put in place, I think the senior men and the JCR presidents should be the kind of representatives for the colleges on that matter.
Again, this is a thing that I put in my manifesto. In terms of river safety, we are facing a binge drinking culture that extends across all of England, as far as I'm aware, and Durham is not alone in this. Therefore, as though patronising, as Rob said it is, I don't think that any more extended talks on the impacts of over excessive drinking is going to help. I feel that you need procedures in place to ensure the safety of our students after nights out. Therefore, I would work with the College Council and the College Union, DSU, to enable, for example, the night buses coming back on so students get home safely. Also, there's a thing going around where you volunteer at the moment to help students get home. So I see that as an extension of Tea and Toast, where there will be a group of Hatfielders based outside of Hatfield College. And if you're too drunk or if you've consumed excessive alcohol or nobody to walk home with, you can go there, and therefore we'll ensure you return home safely. So yeah, I think it's a procedure that you put in place rather than keep on talking to everybody about binge drinking, because we all do it and it's not a great thing to do at the moment.
One of the key parts of being senior man is managing and leading a team. What skills do you think you possess that will make you suited to this?
Okay, so as all of you rowers know out there, I cox, and that takes a great deal of leadership skills. I mean, I'm responsible for the health and safety and also the actions of a group of 8 rowers, and although that does not seem like a lot, it takes a lot of time and effort to enable all to come together to work as a team. So rowing is a team sport, and therefore I'm very, very apt to do that. Also, I was working in Waterstones my first year, and I was head of the children's section in that part, and it was essential that I communicated with the manager all of the time in order to enable that the progress was being made at the bookstore, and that was very, very important in my role. Overall, I am very, very approachable as a person, and that is a key thing you need if you're going to work in a team, because people need to approach you. You can't be the kind of person who's standoffish or won't talk to somebody for stupid reasons such as you go above them. I very much am a down-to-earth person, and I really, really would recommend and care for the welfare of the exec. Thank you.
I think through being at Hatfield, I've really been able to tune my sort of leadership skills. So, for example, being the chair of the JCR at the Line and Winter Ball, I've been able to work very closely with 10 other or 9 other people on almost sort of very, very challenging and pressing and pressurising circumstances, and that takes a lot of organisation. It also takes a lot of management skills. Similar to that with Senior Open Day, it's managing a team of 30 people, including 10 new members of the exec who are also very proactive in wanting to do their own things, which they've just been elected to do. So I think in a Hatfield context, which is really important, being able to know what makes a good leader in a college context, I think I've been able to develop that over the past couple of years or year and a half. And so I think, hopefully, if you ask members of the Line and Winter Ball exec, hopefully I've done an alright job.
3 exec members come to you with a serious concern within the team about another exec member, which cannot easily be resolved. What do you do?
Well, I think it's very important not to take a side on this issue. For example, whilst it might be a kind of pessimistic outlook, it might be those 2 people just have been annoyed with this person for whatever reason and have just taken it upon themselves to funnel their agenda through this one issue. And it might be because that person is, through no fault of their own, they might be going through some problems, or they might be just really bogged down. And so to have the senior man to sort of come down on them like a ton of bricks would probably be the least helpful thing to do, and would divide the exec even further. So it would be important maybe just to subtly approach that person on a one-on-one, maybe chat to the 2 people who have the problems with them and actually try and work out what their problem really is. Is it something to do with the role they're doing, or is it more of a personal issue? Is it something that they just don't like that person at the moment? And getting down to those and just being a really kind of impartial person in that matter. Having said that, once obviously you've sort of seen what's going on, making sure that it's a fair outcome, so to not split the exec even further.
As Rob said, I would talk to all 3 members who came to me about the problem, including the person who the problem is about. I would want to hear both sides, but I will also work with the chair, unless they did have the problem, but I'd want another person in the lodge to mediate the meeting and to ensure that all sides are being expressed and everything is being heard. Also, if this is a dispute between the 2 of them over some small disagreement, it can be easily resolved. But if it's in terms of the role and they're struggling, I think that the rest of the JSR exec should be involved so we can give them support in this time. I mean, everybody works together, and I think it's very, very essential that that's brought forward and not hidden beneath layers.
Last year, a new allocation system was introduced for college applications. The primary result of this has been an increase in public school admissions to Hatfield. What are your thoughts on this?
I personally don't mind public school admission to Hatfield. I come from a public school, and there's no difference between all of us. We're all human. In terms of new college admission, I don't really agree with it, as I think that colleges should be able to choose their own students, especially if students are applying to those personally. Some generations of Hatfields have come down year after year, and it's a shame to lose that tradition in terms of Hatfield. It was one of the main reasons I applied. So although I don't agree with it and think that you should be able to choose, I don't have a problem with public school students coming here.
Yeah, it's just the reality of the situation which was placed upon us. The idea of the system was to make it so that there was a big spread of people and whatever people got their preferred preference, but it's meant this outcome. I don't think it's a bad thing. The actual selection process, I was discussing it with Dan Slavin, and we ended up having a big argument about it, because I think you apply to your college, and you apply to a college because you like the attributes of that college. You like the fact it's in the city centre, you like the fact, I don't know, you might go to Collingwood because you like the sport or something. And so the idea behind that is then you get people who, you get centres of excellence in each college. So one college might be really good at drama, one might be really good at sport. But that was disagreed with on the basis of kind of, I suppose, fairness. But the college education system is a reality now. I don't think it's going to be changeable. But if it means that we've got more public school people here, then that's fine. Everyone is adult, they know if they want to, they can mingle, but they're 18 years old, they can go about their lives as they want, so we can't engineer it that much.
Many people complain about homogenisation and centralisation of colleges by the university. Do you think this is an issue, and if so, how would you work to combat it?
Well, again, I only see the centralisation. I think people get particularly worried about the centralisation of colleges in the context of maybe perhaps that means that the college's character and the college's specialty and what makes it so special is going to get sort of dissolved, and everyone's going to become, all colleges are going to become very sterile. And I don't know whether that's the case. I think the centralisation is an upper management decision, and that they perhaps have access to information, statistics, stuff which we don't, and perhaps for that reason it makes the right decision, because we're cost saving, we're trying to make it more efficient, we want to prevent accommodation rises. Having said that, as senior man, one of the key things you want to do is ensure that your college doesn't take the brunt of any bad decisions you see, or for your for the students. So we want to ensure that in Hatfield the character and what makes Hatfield so special is maintained, whilst also having to work with the university in centralising.
Personally, I don't see centralisation of Hatfield and other colleges as an issue. We would be working more with the university, which is great for improving relationships, but Hatfield does have a very distinct character, which I don't believe at all would lose. Everybody who comes here has an option of society or a club they wish to join, and through that we can maintain Hatfield as it is and specialise in the areas we wish to. It shouldn't affect that.
What do you believe the cost implications of your main policy points are to the JCR, and how would you seek to cover these costs without impacting levies significantly?
Sorry, Jenny, could you repeat the first half of the question?
What do you believe the cost implications of your main policy points are to the JCR?
Thank you. I think my main policy points in terms of the cost would probably be in terms of the renovation of PACE. Now, I know that there are quite a few things going on and a lot of students moving to different locations, but we want to maintain the area for Hatfield students to enable them to carry on socialising as they do. Now, I know that Jevons is getting renovated and we still will maintain a bar, but it is going to be very, very disrupted as a result. Therefore, I think that we're going to have to try and move different students and maybe juggle things around in order to ensure that nothing drastic happens, and this would come at a cost to not only our budget but to the society as a whole in terms of maybe things getting mixed up. I would try and utilise the spaces used as a result of this in order to prevent anything, any added cost of using extra rooms, especially for a reading room. So yeah. What was the next slide?
How would you seek to cover these costs without impacting levies?
Okay, like I said, just using the spaces provided.
Probably the main contentious issue on my manifesto with regard to finances is stuff like the hot drinks at lunch. So I did some digging with Michelle, because Cast at the moment are currently looking into it as well. And what I would propose would probably cost the JCR about £3 to £4 grand, and that can be paid in monthly instalments. And that would be for a machine which would be available to use for the JCR for basically hot drinks whenever you wanted, which I don't think is a bad idea. For the JCR, hot food at the JCR, well, that depends on how much food you want to bring to the JCR meetings. Currently, there isn't really a fund going to the JCR meetings, and it would only probably be what they were once at the start of term and the end of term, so and probably what, 100 quid each time. So it's not going to be a huge amount of money. And considering the JCR has about £15,000 to my knowledge remaining on their development fund, which they can be invest into things which the JCR want, and I'd very much be up for hearing what students want, then well, I think there's probably ample enough money to satisfy that part of the manifesto.
The JCR has quite a significant amount of money saved. Would you maintain this buffer, or do you think it is appropriate to work with the rest of the exec to spend it?
Well, again, I'd like to be really pragmatic here. So, a hot drinks I put on my manifesto because it's something which people kept on saying, and it makes sense. I thought it made logical sense to sort of go for it, but I think we need to be careful with spending because obviously anything is around the corner, particularly with our innovations, and so we're going to need a bit of money just to have in a backup, I suppose. Having said that, we have got a lot of money, like quite a considerable amount of money, so I don't think it would be particularly wrong to maybe invest something in what students want. And obviously there are probably, if you asked everyone in here, you'd get maybe some consistent views about what needs to be improved or renovated or replaced or repaired. And so that would probably make sense with regards to college stuff as to where that money should go. But you don't have to drain the whole pool, you can just sort of take from it when and where you see there is a need and like a consensus on where it should be invested.
I'm going to have to be really tight and say that we maintain the buffer, purely on the basis because, as I've said, anything is around the corner. These renovations we're experiencing, they could take longer than expected, there could be additional costs, there could be problems underlying the foundations of Hatfield for all we know. We do have money coming in from the alumni and other sources, and therefore I feel that we can continue to use that. I mean, we had the boathouse renovated, the tennis courts, and it's provided us with enough in the past, so why not in the future?
Well, thank you so much, guys. And that's all the questions from us up here. Would anyone out there like to ask a question? Daniel?
How do you see your role in working with the new communities rep to ensure that the students' union affairs are adequately represented in the JCI?
So how do you see your role working with the new communities rep to ensure that communities are, the students' union is accurately represented in the JCR? Sorry, Sam first.
Okay, I'm really into college societies and sports, and therefore I think working with the communities officer is an essential part of Hatfield. So in terms of ensuring that everything, especially with the treasurer also, so that budgets can go into different sports and societies and ensure they continue at a great pace, because it is a defining feature of Hatfield. In terms of the DSU, we do need a lot more involvement, I think, because of what happened last year in terms of, I know the meetings weren't very well attended and that we did get accused of allegations of racism, which was awful. So I think that we do need to continue our relationship with the DSU, but also to keep on supporting the college societies as they are at the moment.
I think the DSU or Durham Students' Union is an issue. I'm sure Dan realises that you put in a lot of effort to try and advertise it and try and get people engaged in it. And to some extent it can be very, very hard, particularly like livers out and people not in college for you to sort of really advertise to. So I think the best thing with the Durham Students' Union is just to offer the opportunities. I think the Durham Students' Union is just a really kind of, for students in colleges, is quite a toxic kind of thing. It's not particularly cool. It's in a very, very ugly building. But it's got really, some really good space in it, and it has got some really good societies. You know, I worked on the exec on the radio, which is part of the Students' Union, so I was in there quite a lot. It does have some real problems with inefficiencies and slow stuff and really, really some poor decision making, but you have to kind of work with that. But I think the key thing for advertising the Students' Union needs to be the opportunities. What is out there for people to get involved in? Because perhaps some people come to Hatfield and don't like, you know, what the college has to offer. And so I think it's vital to at least advertise it and see if anyone takes it up.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes, is that Alex at the back?
Would you be more concerned with how the college is perceived or how it's working within itself?
So would you be more concerned with how the college is perceived or how it is working within itself? Rob?
I I think you need to be like careful about taking to heart what people chant about Hatfield, like on Freshers Week and stuff, because it is stuff which is kind of just ingrained into the college mentality, and I don't really mind like a bit of banter about inter-college rivalry and stuff. I think that's quite healthy. As long as the college, I feel like as long as these sort of students in the college are happy, your role is to represent the students in the college, and so as long as you're fulfilling that task and the community in Hatfield is happy that you're fulfilling that task, I'd say you can let the rants of other colleges go unheard, really, just take it sort of and laugh it off. But if it's a serious concern and they're really seriously concerned about the way Hatfield's going or a trend in Hatfield or something, then obviously at Presscom or something it will be raised, and you can deal with it if it's actually something of tangible significance. And that should be taken seriously because we are a part of the Durham University student body as well.
I think the function of the college should be the primary focus, for the senior man and the exec. This is because no matter how badly or well the college functions, it's not going to change people's view of us as a whole. In order to get the viewpoint to change, which I think is important and I outlined in my manifesto, the college has to be working efficiently, and not only that, we have to show people that we're more willing to change. Not the fact that we're bad at the moment, but we have to invite people in and to prove to them that Hatfielders are fantastic people, as you know, we're one of them. And it is a vital part of Hatfield community to make friends and within other colleges. So I think that the primary function should be to enable the college to function properly, whereas it is important also to ensure that our reputation isn't bad.
Thank you. Yes, Ed.
Hi guys. What do you think about the role becoming sabbatical in future years?
So what do you think about the role of senior man becoming sabbatical in future years?
I disagree with it. I know all of the other colleges, well, most of the colleges do actually have this role of sabbatical, and it's great for them, it works, but for Hatfield, we have a senior man and it's tradition, and that again, like I said, is one of the reasons I did apply to Hatfield. Senior man can manage. We've had loads of them in the past, quite a few since the college opened in 1846, and as a result of this, none of them, as far as I know, have had their work impaired or their degrees impaired. They just have fantastic time management skills, which I hope to reiterate.
Yeah, I think the not being in a sabbatical position is simply because it's not wanted to be in a sabbatical position. If everyone in Hatfield decided we want the job to be sabbatical, we think it would be done better, then obviously as you do what the community wants. But I think being a non-sabbatical, you're a student, you're still studying, you're still part of that community, and I think when I met some of the other presidents when we were doing this like event training thing, some of them who were sabbatical, you did get a sense of them feeling like they were separate. There was like a distinction between them. They are paid by the college to be there and to serve the college, and they're not really a student anymore. They're kind of elevated above that. And I think that tone is not helpful. And I think whilst the senior man still is considered to be able to fulfil their role in the capacity in that capacity while still a student, I don't see the reason to change it. I think it could attract different kind of people to the role, and I think it attracts at the moment really organised and hardworking people.
Davide, do you have?
Yeah, I do. I'm sure you both know when you were considering the position that it's quite a stressful position. You've got a lot on, a lot of hours. And how would you deal personally with stress on the one hand, and the fact that you've also got your academic commitments and just your general welfare?
So how would you balance the job and deal with stress with your academic and welfare commitments?
I think it's just something you've got to be sort of careful about and monitor, and I think it's important to have people around you who can, have confidence to tell you that you're too stressed or you need to, calm down a bit or something like that. But I think my experiences of working in Hatfield, particularly in the next 2 weeks for the ball, I mean, it's an incredibly highly pressured situation with a lot of money flying around, a lot of people expecting a lot, working with a group of 10 people who all have, things which need to be done and make sure deadlines are kept and stuff like that. So I think, to an extent, I think I've got the experience to kind of take the role and be able to monitor my time and monitor my welfare. Also, I think perhaps my degree helps because I don't have as many working hours, and I think that gives me the luxury of being able to choose when I can work and when I can do my job as senior.
I do currently have a very strict timetable. I study biology, so therefore my hours can range from between 12 and 20 hours a week due to that. However, I worked for a 20-hour job a week. I was worrying that it got 10 hours of my time. I'm on the Hatfield Regs Egg, and I still managed to come out with a 2-1 in my first year degree, so I was quite proud of that. In terms of my own welfare, I personally deal with stress through exercise, which I'm a bit aggressive at times, but I don't really have a problem with juggling my time, and when I do get stressed, I am aware of it and I am capable of dealing with that problem.
Thank you. Yes, Joe?
With regards to Brexit, do you see the senior threats reporting to you or as you as an advisory role?
Do you see the senior threats as reporting to you during Freshers Week or as an advisory role?
I would see it as an advisory role. I don't see myself as above the senior preps. I mean, they do their job, they know what they're doing, and they were selected purely because of that and their ability to do that. I think personally we're all equals, should work together, and we should each comment on what the problem is and how to fix it if there is a problem, and hopefully ensure that the entire Freshers Week goes smoothly.
Yeah, I think that it's totally an advisory position. You've appointed these people by virtue of the fact that they're very good and they're very suited to the role, and you should let them get on and do it. And the more you interfere, I think the more you can create, irritation. And if you've appointed someone to a job, give them the courtesy of allowing them to do it. I think what the senior man can offer, and indeed the exec in that position, is just simply knowledge, because they would have done months of working with college officers. They will know the regulations that need to happen, and perhaps going through legal for payments and stuff like that, which would save the senior rep a lot of time, no doubt. I think to have that purely advisory on matters where it's quite clear that you need the help from the people who are more experienced at doing college affairs, I think that's where it should start and really end in if you want the senior reps to really be able to feel that they can do their job as they want and make it a great week.
Thank you. Yes, David?
I'm going to throw you a little bit of a scenario. Let's say you have a member of your exec who's absolutely incompetent at their job. Soz guys, you're not. But I'm just saying that they're absolutely incompetent. Everyone around the college is saying, these people, this person's really annoying. They don't do their job. How are you going to get them to work? They've got another 2 terms, let's say, in the year, and so how are you going to manage that whole situation?
So if you have a member of the exec who's completely incompetent at their job and have 2 terms left, how would you manage that situation?
I think you need to gauge the tone as to why they are really bad at their job. Are they really bad at their job because they've overwhelmed themselves with a commitment which they can't keep to? Or are they incompetent at their job because they're very, perhaps lazy, they don't really care, they've got no motivation? If it's the latter, then obviously you want to try and motivate them, because you don't really want a situation where you want, you're suggesting to the JCR that this person should be removed, because I think it's a nasty business, and it's just like, I think it's just a bad thing to have in the community in Hatfield. Having said, if it's just because they're finding it difficult, they have too many hours in the day, or they're going through something, then the key thing there is to help them. Like, they're not doing anything wrong, they're just not being able to do their job because they can't really help it. There's something happening. So I think there's a clear distinction there to find out whether this is because of perhaps their negative personality traits which make them unsuitable to the role, or whether it's a circumstance which is temporary and can be hopefully improved upon.
As Rob was saying, there is an essential aspect as to why they can't perform their job properly. I would first speak to them personally and see if I get to the bottom of that. If it was a welfare issue, I would hopefully work with my welfare officer in order to solve that and help them through that. If it was just because they were blatantly being lazy, then I would tell the rest of the executive board and we would have to work together in order to inspire them. If that still did not work, I would perhaps approach maybe Tim Birch or Anthony Bash or Eleanor in order to ask their opinion on what should be done, because it is a nasty business of removing somebody from the exec when they have been voted in from the majority of the JCR exec.
Thank you. Yes, Dan?
How do you respond to suggestions that the JCI isn't very diverse, and what would you do to ensure that potential applicants feel that they have a place here regardless of any factors?
So how would you respond to suggestions that Hatfield isn't very diverse, and how would you ensure that everyone feels like they have a place here? No, Sam first.
Can you define diverse in this context?
So diverse, the way I mean it is, anybody who wants to come here feels welcome to, that we represent all different groups of students, whether that be on you know, race, gender, sexuality, academic background.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I do think Hatfield is very diverse. I know that walking around it. In terms of showing other people that, it is on my manifesto that I want to integrate Hatfield College with a better relationship into other colleges. So in terms of intercollegiate formals, bringing them all in. And at the rowing ball, we had this fantastic thing where 2 people from each college sat next to other people on the table who they'd never met before, and it just got all of the barriers down. I'm still talking to those people, and it would be amazing to invite them back into Hatfield, and I know they're all keen to come to a Hatfield formal. So yeah, it would be great to do that and just show them that Hatfielders are lovely people, and the stereotype that goes with Hatfield is not true in the slightest.
I think like having a diverse community in Hatfield is key. It's very difficult about how you can make that perception. So, you know, obviously you want to try and encourage. So I was chatting to a mature student who felt that during Freshers Week, and indeed her Hatfield, she didn't apply to Hatfield, she got allocated to Hatfield, and she felt that there was just nothing for her, so she just stays away from it. So I think always having the consideration about how we can, you know, ensure that we're sort of making ourselves as broad as possible to the appeal of the community. And perhaps trying to encourage people to take roles of leadership. I think people become inspired to feel included when they see someone who is similar to them, or they can engage with, and that what gets them through the door of sort of the community and to feel welcome if someone is there for them to talk to and see. So I think encouraging societies as community rep you would do, so like the LGBT society is really important. I think that's really important that we need to introduce, and similar societies to that encourage people to set those up and get their representation up.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes, Mark? So do you think the title of your role is a barrier to inclusivity?
No. I'm joking. I think if there was a serious issue in that, well, because we had this vote last year about whether senior man should change to JCR president, and the response was incredibly in the favour of keeping senior man as it is. As a senior man at the time, you need to simply take the views of the JCR. If the JCR votes to change it, then they change it. It's the JCR's, you know, president or senior man, so they can choose what title it gets. Do I see it as being a boundary? I don't, and I think the evidence of our college having 3 senior men, I've only known senior men who've been women, and I think that's perhaps representative of the fact that it hasn't been. And indeed, people I've spoken to when I suggest it, who are women, can get quite fiery about it and feel it's quite patronising to feel that simply because the role, because of history, has that title, it means that they don't have any entitlement to run for it. In fact, they find it quite insulting in some cases. So at the moment, I'd say it's very much in support to keep it as it is, and if that changes, it changes, but it hasn't at the moment.
Again, I would say that I agree in that the senior man title does not present a boundary at all. I'm a female, I still applied, Marie is a female, and chat before her was also. Yeah, basically I don't think there's any problem with it, and there hasn't been any problems in the past as far as I'm aware, so yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Ed?
So, as we all know, recently the university senior powers have been really trying to impose their own agenda on student bodies. For example, the fees are rising. They're trying to centralise the collegiate system to cut costs. How will you go about making sure that Hatfield's views are represented, and how will you react to these situations to make sure that the university doesn't just dictate their agenda and that the student voice isn't heard?
Go ahead, I think we all heard that.
So the first thing I think is a communication relationship has to be set up so that we can work together on this. The last thing I want to do is start fighting the university in terms of problems that may arise in the future. If we can establish a strong relationship from the start, we are able to work accordingly, and hopefully they can understand our views and where we're coming from. Only then can we start putting ideas across that might be taken seriously, not as looked upon as their students, why should we listen to them? So I think that is the first part. In terms of accommodation fees rising, that is, it's not great. Nobody really likes that, as far as I'm aware. And I think that what we can try and do is, obviously there's going to be general inflation, but perhaps if we put the idea across of not rising for a specific period of time, for maybe the next year that I'm in office or the year after that, and the following senior man can follow this up and hopefully find the university a way to reimburse the fees that they're losing through this, because we're paying a lot of money for this. I mean, it's £9 a year, so it should be used properly.
Yeah, I think the key with dealing with professional management level people is to go in and be diplomatic, because nothing shuts people off more than someone who's really confrontational to start with, because you kind of want, you know, the immediate reaction is to kind of back off and just go, well, you know, we're dealing with that. But at the same time, you want to be able to be very professional with them, you know, not smarmy or sarky, or be broadcasting views which, you know, they would undermine your reputation and indeed your position. But you want to be firm. You'd want to say this is not what the students of this college want. And indeed, hopefully, I think the most effective way is to try and take a united front with other colleges and take it to Presscom, and then from Presscom have a very sort of a consensus on what strategy we're going to go. Because if 14 colleges all come at it from different directions, then it's going to be easier for them to thwart off than if it's one united body. So I think that's the key, sort of diplomacy, and try and get a united stance from the students.
Thank you. Yes, Dan?
One of the main responsibilities of your role is defining strategic direction for the JCR. What's your vision for the JCR for the next 5 years?
So what's your vision for the JCR for the next 5 years?
Well, my focus, on the future, it has to be ensuring that the building, I touch on this in my manifesto, ensuring that the building works are really going to benefit the students, because the accommodation costs are very, very high, and the quality of accommodation compared to other colleges in Hatfield is quite poor, and indeed some of the facilities. So the stuff I mentioned is stuff about the bar, ensuring we have performance space and air conditioning, these kind of things which you'd expect if you're paying so much money. So for my sort of strategic vision for 5 years, because obviously that's a very long time for where I would end, would be ensuring that the decisions I would make with regards to the design and what's going to be inbuilt in Hatfield College for the future is going to be really beneficial to students. So what do students want? Which is why I suggested opening up a forum to say what facilities do Hatfielders want in college. Whilst we're here, there's a blank slate, a rebuilding all of these things, a redesigning the place. Let's try and get in everything we can, because there undoubtedly is space and there's room to improve. So that would be my main one for 5 years, because I think it's unrealistic to try and change it, like that's the most obvious place to start for a long-term plan.
So for the next 5 years, I view Hatfield as having a much better reputation with the colleges and the university as a whole, which I have explained prior to this. So in terms of intercollegiate formals, more events in order to incorporate a smaller university. But also, I would love to specialise in the return of 3rd and 4th year, so really getting them back into college. Hatfield has an incredibly diverse amount of people in there, and because livers out are living in Gilesgate and the Viaduct, which is a long way away, I really think that we should bring us all back together and host more events. So the livers out formal last time was fully booked, and it was such an amazing success. I would like to keep on doing those and just really ensuring that the Hatfield spirit isn't lost and that the diversity isn't lost in the college as a whole. I mean, it's what makes us Hatfield, and it's a shame for freshers to come in and only meet people in 2nd year, or maybe even small amounts of 3rd year, because it's a great collaboration between all of us in order to ensure Hatfield progresses together.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? No? In which case, Sam, would you like to kind of have your last 2 minutes?
Okay. Thanks guys for hanging on in there until the end. I know it's been a long one. I am fantastically enthusiastic about this college, and if you wanted me as your senior man, I promise I would put your needs first in the JCR. I see the role as being on par with my degree at the moment, and it's so important to me, and I really, really would respect your wishes and make you a fantastic representative. In terms of what I want to change, I have outlined about pace, minimal disruption. I don't feel as though we need to go into that anymore. Intercollegiate relationships, more formal events, as I was expanding on before, the rowing ball would be a fantastic idea to get us all together and just to remove any of the stereotypes associated with Hatfield and ensure that we do come together as a student body. The river safety one, I would like to specialise in the most. I mean, it is, after what's happened in the last 18 months, it's been tragic, and I really, really feel that we should make a big move against this and ensure that our student safety becomes a top priority in college, and not only in college, in the university as a whole, so working together with other colleges and establishing relationships to allow us to do this. But I really, really hope you guys do vote for me, and I believe I'll be a fantastic representative of the college. I'm approachable, I'm fun, I can do formals. It's going to be great, guys, if you do vote. Thank you.
I think probably what I can offer best in the role of senior man is just my experience from working as an exec member in the Students' Union to doing the open day to doing the Line and Winter Ball. I've got a very good relationship with quite a large member of people, very fairly influential people. So that would be from our college officers, to Anthony, to Ella, to Michelle, to Daryl. And I think as senior man, if you want to maximise what your vision is, you need to have a really good working relationship with individuals such as these, who can make quite good concessions for the JCI if they feel like they want to. I feel like Hatfield needs to preserve its character, what it is. I think Hatfield is one of the funniest and funnest college, and indeed Daryl always says that it's the naughtiest but best college to be at, which I think is a good fair representation. And I'd like to keep that. I'd like to keep how it is and try and sort of in a pragmatic way try and ensure that what we're going through at the moment with our renovations and the centralisation process doesn't change that, but we only sort of develop and try and work out a way around it. And I take representation incredibly seriously. I'd only really try and carry out things which I feel the JCR supports, and irrelevant of my personal decisions, I'd accept any decisions which were taken which I didn't agree with if the JCR were in support of that. Because I feel this role very much as a representation role rather than me just going off on one and doing my own vision. Having said that, look at my manifesto. Hopefully you'd agree they're fairly sensible, rational kind of things to implement. Hopefully I've looked at the money and I think we've got some things to do, and we can invest in some things. I think Hatfield needs that. But just thank you for bearing to sit here in this hot room, and thank you for listening to me.